Personally, what is how would you rate the federal government's fight against corruption?
Have they told us how they utilize COVID-19 resources? You say you did conditional cash transfer. I call it conditional cash payments. You say you're doing N-Power, you're doing social investment, trader money, market money. Is this how to run a cashless economy? You want to fight corruption, but you're using, cash system to give Nigerians. In your government, Nigeria was the poverty capital of the world. Because see, when you fight corruption, what it means is you're fighting injustice.
We'll begin today's program with a quote from Jennifer Lawrence, the world's highest paid American actress in 2015 and 2016. She once said that we need to tell each other our stories. We need to show that everyone, our neighbors, our families, our community leaders, everyone we know is touched by corruption. All right, then, let's take our second quote to see what all of this and how they relate to what we'll be discussing today. And our second quote is from National Youth Rights Association. It is a youth-led civil rights organization promoting youth rights. They once said that what kind of twisted message do we send when we tell youth they are judged mature? Responsible adults when they commit murder, but silly, brainless kids rather when they want to vote. Lowering their voting age is the just, fair way to set things straight. Okay, let's see how this relates to what we will be discussing today. Warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Now, the youth are the backbone of a nation. They play an important role in the development of the society. Hence, they determine the future of any given society. This makes the youth to be an important age group in both today's social order and the future, more than any other age group. Now, the youth have a critical role to play because the future of our families, communities, and country lies in their hands. But here in Nigeria, the youth are now becoming a depressed segment of the society. They complain of being marginalized, and this brought about a lot of agitations. You remember the EndSARS protest that kept the whole nation on a lockdown. There are certificates, but there are no jobs. There are universities, but there are no professional or vocational education. There are wide gaps between the elite and the poor. There is a government, but not a proper policy as to how they can solve all of this quagmire. As we seek solutions to these challenges, first, we need to understand the reason for the surge in crime and criminality, in drug abuse and peddling, internet fraud, that's the Yahoo boys, which they've now redefined to Bitcoin lords, and, of course, corruption. Now, today's conversation will be very expressive as my guest is Hamzat Lawal. He is the CEO Connected Development. He's also the founder of Follow the Money. He's the co-convener of Not Too Young to Run. Hamzat Lawal bears his mind on Nigeria's anti-corruption fight, youth and crime, technology, and, of course, the My Abuja profile, and many other things, very good things. So, I will see you at the code office. Glad to have you back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now we have our guest. He is Hamzat Lawal. He is the CEO of Connected Development Code, and he is also the founder of Follow the Money. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. All right, now first, let's start with Follow the Money. You are the founder of Follow the Money. So talk to us about this group. What are the aims that you seek to address and the mission statement, and how much have you been able to meet this mission statement?
So in 2010, just to take people down memory lane, over 400 children was announced killed due to lead poisoning. In 2012, I was struggling to get information on what has happened for 2 years, because at that time, government declared it a national emergency and billions of naira was released. So I took a 16-hour trip to Bagega community in Zamfara State, Anka local government. I found out that no single cent on that, no single kobo on those billions of naira got to this community. So we started a campaign with a hashtag called Save Bagega, because 1,500 children were very sick at that time. And I found out that over 700 children had died. So with our campaign, in less than 72 hours on Twitter, using the hashtag Save Bagega, President Goodluck Jonathan in 2012 approved and released a sum of $5.3 million, which was close to R1 billion. And that's how Follow the Money was bettered, you know. Following the money from Abuja, from the Ministry of Finance, to various government MDAs, down to Gusau and down to Bagega. So today, as I speak to you, you have access road to this community. They have potable drinking water. They have state-of-the-health primary healthcare center. They have primary schools and even mobile network. So from that time till this moment, Follow the Money have evolved. And for us, at first, Follow the Money tries to answer, one, where monies are coming from. Two, where they're going to, but most importantly, how judiciously this money had been utilized, particularly at the grassroots. And this homegrown Nigerian initiative is now in 10 other African countries. It was identified as the fastest growing movement around the world that deepens democracy. And we won the Council of Europe Award in 2019 just to recognize organization helping to foster democracy around the world. So Follow the Money is now Africa's largest grassroots movement with over 8,000 members across 40 African countries, with a base in 10 countries and growing. Now there's interest in US, Europe, Southeast Asia, and Canada. It's COVID-19 that sort of slowed down our growth and expansion. But yeah, that's what we try to do with Follow the Money, you know, engaging young people to follow public resources and ensuring this delivers on the dividends of democracy.
Oh, great. That's quite a very good achievement that you've made since you started. Now let's talk about Nigeria's age-long anti-corruption fight. Now we see that we have various institutions that were established to work, do this work, or walk the talk, like they say. You have EFCC, you have ICPC and other security officials. But then we've always had so much money that has gone down the drain, either being swallowed by some snake or monkeys or being taken to faraway countries. And then you still have reports of recovered loot, but not much have been heard about them. And then you still see that some of the heads in this security of establishments, they have their hands in the cookie jar. But then so many Nigerians have actually said that if we have to use the kind of money that have been recovered in Nigeria, we might not need to go borrowing. So what are your thoughts on all of this?
I think we're just, over the years, providing lip services to the fight against corruption. And let me take us down memory lane. Yes, the then government set up the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission with the pioneer chairman, Malam Nuhu Ribadu. I think that the EFCC lost her track after Malam Nuhu Ribadu transition after the EFCC. Because today, if you even talk about anti-corruption and EFCC, a lot of Nigerians only remember Malam Nuhu Ribadu. And we've had successive chairman, and no one really remembers them because he's the only one that have left a legacy and made a mark. We lost it at the late 80s, early 90s. Corruption ate deeper into our society, where we now have strong men and weaker institutions, which invariably is supposed to be stronger institutions and weak men. So what happens is today we have a budget appropriation. These monies have been released. Government officials and politicians spend this money, but we don't have a strong audit regime. There's an Auditor General report that shows that over 200 MDAs did not provide them with information on how they utilize public resources. And everyone is calm. You know, we were expecting, and we had called on the National Assembly to institute a public hearing and invite the heads of these MDAs to come and give an account. We have in the Senate and the House of Rep, you know, the Public Accounts Committee, who have members and chairs. So again, when you look at corruption and the fight against corruption, in 2016, there was an anti-corruption summit in London. I'm sure your viewers would remember when David Cameron has said Nigeria is fantastically corrupt, just a few days before this anti-corruption summit. President Muhammadu Buhari was a special guest in that meeting. I was in London, invited by Transparency International as their delegate. And in that meeting, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Open Government Partnership, you know, on the sideline. And he led conversation around the fight against corruption because Nigerian people voted him in 2015 with the message he came, the mantra he came, that he was going to come and fight corruption in the system. And then he signed the OGP. He was leading conversation. In 2018, the African Union, you know, gave him the anti-corruption champion, and he led the conversation across Africa. Yes, it's exciting that we have that conversation at that high level. But when you look at how corruption has eaten deep into our system, our society, with very weak regime in terms of institutions that are meant to do checks and balance and also recover resources, it's really sad and unfortunate. So for me, our fight against corruption is just lip service. Because when you look at how public officials are embezzling and mismanaging and misappropriating resources, and I can share a few stories. When you travel to various grassroots communities, so you have communities where there's a budget appropriation to build a new primary healthcare center or even rehabilitate a primary healthcare center. At night, provide, you know, power so that they can run at night and women can give birth. Because when you look at maternal mortality and newborn, Nigeria is still one of the leading countries where, you know, children die below 5 years and where mothers die because they're pregnant and they're about to give birth. And they use torchlight. You know, they use phone light in these communities. And when you look at the budget, there is a provision for it. So again, and this is not just about the federal level, both from the local government to the state government and, you know, to the federal government. Sadly, the fabric of our society have been eaten, you know, with corruption. Even the average Nigerian, when you interact with them, it has now become a norm. You know, we're losing values every day where, you know, corruption is now the order of the day. And because there are no, yes, it has. There are no consequences. You know, today, when you also follow some of these cases, is it Maina's gate? You know, is it the grasshopper gate or the grass cutting gate? You know, what has some of these people have not been prosecuted? So again, there's that lack of trust even between government and citizen. So today people are looking at the judiciary that, you know, before now we say is the, you know, it's the last resort for an ordinary Nigerian. But right now it just seems like they're also caught up in that corruption web where probably is the money bags that dictates, you know, the outcome of these cases, or you steal so much that you can let go of a few and just continue to have your freedom.
Okay, so I hear you talk about ministries have been summoned by the National Assembly. Yes, we've seen how much they have been summoned, but sometimes some of them don't even show up. How much have all of this summons, the recovered loot, how much have they even gone?
So again, when you look at our democracy, and I think we need to have a conversation, what kind of democracy we want to practice. Yes, we've seen cases where the National Assembly would invite a minister or a head of an agency, and they would not appear. Even look at when they wanted to have the president come and give us an account on the fight against insecurity, you know, and it just seemed like, no, this is democracy and the rule of law stipulates separation of power. So again, we have weaker institutions and stronger men, where even we saw the incident of NDDC, you know, the off your mic scenario, and until today, no one has been prosecuted. Nothing happened to the people. Billions of naira unaccounted for. Just even look at how we manage COVID-19 resources, you know. For COVID-19, the last time we heard from the Accountant General of the Federation after we wrote him a Freedom of Information request, 35 billion release, 35 billion resources, 30 billion release. They didn't give us who they released 30 billion to. The 5 billion naira, they didn't tell us what is the plan for disbursement. And I'm sure they've disbursed it now. But what was the impact of these resources? Who were the beneficiaries? This money we're meant to provide to the Nigerian people to cushion the effects of COVID-19. When you speak to people at the grassroots, none of them got palliative. You know, in the Southwest, there was a politician who took palliatives and rebranded it. And look at the case of the warehouse, you know, saving this palliative and waiting for 2023 to distribute them, you know. So we have politicians and public officials that have lost conscience, and they only think about the next cycle of politics and public office rather than thinking about the future of the country.
Okay, so I hear you talk about Transparency International. So now let's talk about the recent report that they released saying that Nigeria is the second most corrupt country, and then they were dropped to 154 out of 180 countries. What are your thoughts on? Do you accept that report?
It's glaring. So again, the perception, this report was independently carried out, you know, by experts, and agreed data template was used. So the perception out there about corruption is what the report is, you know, it's showing us. Yes, government might reject it because, you know, government spokesperson would come and reject this report. Yes, every data is open to being questioned. But when you look at the fight against corruption, when you look at the perception on corruption, so let's even go to, let's take the Nigerian police, for instance. When you talk to people, middle class, poor people, everyone will tell you they've paid their way out of a police wahala, a police trouble. They've given bribe. If it's at the checkpoint, you know, they've given bribe to police. And this was what even, you know, escalated to the NSAS movement that was a bit chaotic at the end when government hoodlums tried to hijack, you know, this campaign. So when you look at the perception on corruption, on service delivery, so you go to the hospital, you get a hospital card, but you wait hours to see a doctor. When you're asked to be admitted, there are no beds, so you have to give someone money so that they can process and try to find you a corner for you to be admitted. So this report states clearly the pulse of the people, you know, what the people are thinking and their perception on the fight against corruption in Nigeria. I had thought that President Muhammadu Buhari, you know, would have an open mind to this report. Mind you, this is the 6th report since he took over office. And year in, year out, we're getting worse. Every year, you know, we're getting worse. Instead of us to reduce, we're increasing. You know, and in West Africa, we're the most corrupt, you know. The report is clear. I had thought he would, with an open mind, take this report and see it as an indictment to his government.
Okay. Yes. I was actually, sorry to cut you in. I was actually going to ask you to give what are your ratings in this federal government's fight against corruption. So it's like you're already giving the affirmative.
It's not my rating.
Okay.
It's the people's rating.
Okay, so personally, what is how would you rate the federal government's fight against corruption?
Have they told us how they utilize COVID-19 resources? You say you did conditional cash transfer. I call it conditional cash payment. You say you're doing N-Power, you're doing social investment, trader money, market money. Is this how to run a cashless economy? You want to fight corruption, but you're using, you know, cash system to give Nigerians. In your government, Nigeria was the poverty capital of the world. Because see, when you fight corruption, what it means is you're fighting injustice. When you fight injustice, it means there will be peace and prosperity. It means that we can now invest. You have more foreign direct investment. You attract more foreign investors. It means that there will be lots of jobs. But today we're talking about over 30% unemployment rate. We're talking about over 100 million people very poor. And then The data are out there. It is not me. The report on what is happening in Nigeria today is an indictment on the president, on his commitment to the Nigerian people. He has abused the collective effort of Nigerians who have given him and entrusted him, with legitimacy to run their government and to run the affairs of Nigeria. But today, people are suffering. Because when you look at corruption, the insecurity we're suffering today is an output of corruption. Because if, for instance, there are jobs, if people can access public services, healthcare, education, access to potable drinking water, access to employment, then why would people go and carry arms and fight the state and fight their communities and burn down villages? So what is happening in the state of Nigeria today, the corruption, is an indictment to President Muhammadu Buhari and the commitment he made to the Nigerian people to elect him into public office.
All right, now, so let's talk about the youth and technology, the use of technology. Now, we see that there have been recent reports of surging cases of internet fraud. The Yahoo, but now they've even changed it to other names like Bitcoin lords. They call it so many names. And you see that there's this new song. Whenever you hear that song, you just know that they've taken down one girl. And it's becoming like a trend. You see the pictures, the videos online and all. And there's some states that you just get into, and it's almost like all of the youth in that state are they're just walking in the same circles. So what exactly is the reason for this surge in internet fraud? Are we going to link it to bad governance or corruption?
No, I think that as a community, we've failed and we've continued to fail. You see, we've lost our values. We're losing our shared humanity. So today, when you look at the first community of every person is the house, the father, the mother, and the children. We've lost that values that we learn from our parents, that love that we share, that lessons around empathy, around behavior, around ethics. We've lost it, and it's deepened because it has nothing to do with government. People today just want to make money using the shortcut. I told you we've done follow the money now for 10 years. You see how we grew from 1 to 5 to 10 and now 8,000 people. That's how life is. You can't just jump from zero and then you want to make ₦1 billion. So for me, we've lost value as people, and this has eaten deeper into society. Before now, I remember when I was in primary school, there was an incident when my elder brother came home with his friend's toy. And my dad was very upset that why would you collect your friend's toy and bring home? Now, people take SUVs to their family house and everybody would jump and laugh and celebrate. They wouldn't ask, where did you get it from? How did you make this money? So now we're in a society that embraces abnormalities where, people would not even question anything. You see a 21-year-old, 23-year-old driving a ₦100 million car and you think it's fine, it's cool, it's the trend. No, that means we've lost values. That means because as a society, we must continue to question ourselves. We must interrogate ourselves. And we cannot make progress if society and our various pockets of communities, are not doing what they're supposed to do. So for me, we've lost shared values, shared humanity, no empathy. And it's just sad and unfortunate. And we must tackle this urge. So
how do we begin to tackle it? Because we have the EFCC going after these people, but yet it looks like technology is their new crude. And now they devise various means on getting this money, saving and investing them. But not much has been done. EFCC is there trying to bring them down. Security officials are doing their job, but yet their walls keep getting thicker every day.
I think we need a joint effort. When you look at Nigeria's constitution, the highest law enforcement agency is the Nigerian police. How is EFCC coordinating with the Nigerian police, coordinating with immigration and custom? And I'm sure you wonder, why am I saying immigration and custom? Have you seen how this current drug administration is clamping down on the use of drug? Because all of these are related. Call it, financial crime. What do they spend most of their money on? It's drug. Womanizing drug and living a luxurious lifestyle. So you must be able to get to a point where there will be coordinated effort between the anti-corruption agency between the law enforcement agency, the Nigerian police, the immigration and the custom. Because again, the investment they do with this ill-gotten wealth is not even the right investment. They're acquiring drugs and becoming warlords and becoming drug lords. So again, I believe that yes, government needs to create that enabling environment, but I think as young people, we must also have difficult conversations about ourselves. We cannot say that we're not too young to run, we're ready to lead, and yet, a huge chunk of our population is engaged in social vices. And this is also bringing negativity to Nigeria as a whole, because today the perception generally about our country is negative. And the true representation of what the Nigerian dream is the young people. Yes, we have a couple of, amazing young people doing great, but we also have terrible young people making us look bad, stealing from old people and retirees. So again, yes, our government must lead on some front, but we need to also engage our traditional institution, our religious institution. What are we preaching in mosques and the churches? What are our traditional institutions? What are they telling their wards and their kids and people under their domain? Because we're failing, and we need to tackle this rapidly.
Okay. All right. So I hear you talk about how much we have done in terms of, I hear you talk about the not too young to run. We'll talk about that, but we'll do for a break. Let's go on this quick break, and when we return, the conversation continues. Don't move a muscle.
So for me, technology, social media can help us tackle insecurity, can help us tackle insurgency, and can help unite the country. Because see, today, social media, and that's why I always advocate, we cannot and we must not regulate social media. Because what it means is, if government successfully regulates social media, it means they're the ones that will now decide who has a voice on this platform and who doesn't. So what happens to their critics? What happens to journalists? What happens to activists?
While the Nigerian government has consistently claimed that it is reducing corruption, Nigeria has been ranked 5 places worse on the 2021 Corruption Perceptions Index. According to the 2021 Corruption Perceptions Index released globally by Transparency International, Nigeria scored 24 points out of 100, placing Nigeria as the second most corrupt country in West Africa after Guinea ranked 150 on the global index. According to the Executive Director, CISLAC, Lawal Ibrahim, the index reveals that corruption is getting worse in Nigeria.
Nigeria is still battling with crisis of corruption, where Nigeria scored 24 out of 100 points in the 2021 Corruption Perception Index, falling back 1 point compared to 2020 Corruption Perception Index. In the country comparison for this year, Nigeria ranked 154 out of 180 countries, 5 places down compared to 2022 Corruption Perception Index results. This shows significantly that corruption in Nigeria is still a major challenge which require collective efforts to combat corruption in Nigeria. As you all know today, for you to get admission into higher institutions, you have to pay bribe. For you to get even your exam or to even get your results, there's tendency that you are going to pay bribe. For you to get a job in Nigeria today, if you don't pay bribe, forget it. To get passport, international passport, if you don't pay bribe, forget it. To get driving license, if you don't pay bribe, forget it. Everything that has to do with public sector is embedded with the corruption. Political corruption in Nigeria is one major stumbling block to our actualization of democracy and good governance. People will steal money, come and invest it in the election. We spend billions to organize the election, only to end up bringing in crooks and criminals that will come and continue to perpetuate stealing in public sector. We cannot make progress if we continue this way.
Sislak suspected a list of key weaknesses to explain why Nigeria may have not improved in numerous challenges facing the country. One of the weaknesses to be pointed is the failure to investigate high-profile corruption cases and prevent illicit financial flow, basing their claims on the Pandora Papers published in 2021.
Following the pattern of two previous leaks, including the Paradise Papers and Panama Papers, which were released in 2016 and 2017 respectively, the Pandora Papers investigation exposes systems and secrecy jurisdictions that enable and abet crime, corruption, and illicit dealings by politicians, billionaires, influential individuals, and their enablers globally. Many of the individuals exposed are Nigerians, and among them we have senators, heads of important public bureaucracies, serving and past governors. However, no action has followed the report, even though it overleads for anti-graft agencies to do their work.
Other weaknesses range from the COVID-19 pandemic and security, high unemployment, and a sharp increase in government borrowings, amongst others.
The level of financial recklessness and abuse of budgetary processes and failures of the various NDAs in following due process of appropriation is very disturbing, to say the least. For example, the Auditor General of the Federation revealed that in that report, I'm referring to the 2019 report, reveals that the sum of 49 billion naira was spent by 9 ministries, departments, and agencies without appropriation by the National Assembly. The systemic corruption in the Nigeria police force has sadly continued unabated, and with the police at the front line of Nigeria's criminal justice system with enormous powers to investigate and prosecute crimes. This weakness puts the country in a bad light.
The continuous absence of a whistleblower protection legislation leaves Nigerians' anti-corruption agencies deprived of key insider intelligence. There is a need for the Nigerian judiciary to speed up its delivery of judgments. The delay in treating high-profile cases of corruption dampened the morale of anti-graft agencies.
They also advised the government to implement their recommendations.
The Nigerian police force should urgently investigate the unexplained disappearance of arms and ammunition as with a view to close the gaps. The government must ensure democratic and free civic space for engagement with citizenry and the media. A need to operationalize the anti-corruption strategy to ensure that anti-corruption efforts are not concentrated at the federal level alone.
The ranking is coming at the heels of numerous challenges facing the country.
If you've just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. You've just joined us, you've missed quite a lot, but then you can still join in the conversation. So we still have Hamzat Lawal. He is the CEO of Connected Development Code. Okay, so before we went on that break, we've said quite a lot of things. And then now we said we're going to talk about the not too young to run. But then before we get to that, let's talk about activism in Nigeria. You're an activist. So now there's always this thought or this mentality from people that most Nigerian activists, it only exists in the name or the designation, because once something happens, they're all screaming or chanting, "We no go grill," or chanting, "Aluta continua." But then when they get to when some people, the money bags dangle, whatever it is in front of them like a bunch of keys, their songs change. And then the next thing they tell you is, we decided to sheath our sword. What are your thoughts on that?
Activism over the years have transitioned, and how people undertake activism. And I tell people that every form of activism is an activism. So there's no specific way to undertake, as an activist. There's no specific, rules of engagement. And I say it has evolved because when you look at history, you had people who fought the military junta, and then you had people who also ensured democracy and the rule of law. Because I'm sure a lot of people remember the saga between when President Yaradua passed on, and when some powers were holding Nigeria to ransom and not allowing the rule of law to prevail, and having President Goodluck Jonathan sworn in as acting president or as president. So, we have evolved. Today, it's more the use of technology, the use of social media. Yes, there's a bit of organizing and protest. But I also tell people that, you see, activism and the current state of activism in Nigeria is everyone seems to be an activist now. Because when you go on Twitter, a lot of people are complaining, people are ranting. When you look at WhatsApp status, when you look at Facebook, a lot of people are complaining and ranting. But for some of us, we're naturally born activists, from primary school, secondary school, university as student union leader, and then with my work in the civic space. The truth is the civic space is shrinking rapidly. Today you have government clamping down on media, civil society, and activists. You have them using security agencies to target and picket, activists. Look at what happened to their accounts, the bank accounts of some of the leaders of the NSAS protest. Yes, we've seen cases where government use corrupt practices or mismanage resources or siphon resources to bribe. Oh yes, a couple of government officials have tried to bribe or tried to hijack a proceeding or a protest by giving the leaders money, or by just throwing stuff at them so that they can change their mind, or so they can change their course of direction. To be an activist is not easy, because here you are fighting the rights of people. Here you are fighting for the survival of your country, but you yourself cannot fight for your own rights. I tell people that we human rights defenders, we can't defend our own rights. We need someone else to defend our rights and fight for our own cause, and when our rights are trampled upon. So, but it is the reality that yes, corrupt people try to buy activists over. I've been bribed a couple of times.
I'm going to definitely get to that.
I've been bribed a couple of times. I remember the first major one was 100 million naira that was thrown at me when I was leading a campaign on the 9.2 billion clean cook stove project that government at that time wanted to distribute 750,000 clean cook stoves and 18,000 wonder bags to rural women. And what I did was I traveled to the 6th geopolitical zone. I asked rural women who were cooking with firewood, are you aware that government is going to spend this money on stove? Are you aware you are supposed to benefit? They don't know. They were not aware. They were not informed. I asked the Ministry of Environment at that time, what was your distribution mechanism for this stove? You've awarded this contract. How much money have you released? When would they deliver the first consignment? How would you distribute the stoves? Are you engaging stakeholders? There was no answer. Because it was a big fat elephant project. So they now called me to a meeting, offered me 100 million, which of course I rejected. And we worked then with some media, investigative journalists, and ICPC, that's the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses, did an underground investigation, and a few people were arrested and prosecuted, and over 5 billion was recovered for that intervention. The other one was the FPS, or the Ejima FPSO project, where over $10 billion project, and at that time were two of us leading it, Moses Yasasiloko, who is the chairman and founder of the Nigerian Young Professionals Forum, and myself. We wrote a petition to EFCC, DSS, ICPC, the presidency, because we got evidence of malpractice and corruption. The president instituted an investigation through EFCC and DSS, so we were called by DSS to come and give a statement and to also provide evidence. Same with EFCC. We're called into a meeting and we're offered 2 million naira bribe to share $1 million, sorry, $2 million, I said 2 million, $2 million bribe. So 1 million each for I and my colleagues, which of course we rejected. And then we went forward again and said, and told the authorities, we've just been bribed, with $2 million, which we have rejected. So it shows that there's a big level of corruption in this case. They said they were going to investigate it. The last time we checked, they were still investigating. So yes, so it tells you again that if we don't have our own personal integrity, because for everybody, first you must have your own personal integrity and then work as a collective with people who share the same values, the same vision with you. Because, Moses could have gone behind my back or I could have gone behind his back. But because we share the same values, we have our personal integrity and we've joined forces. So, but when you look at it, it's not encouraging. So imagine if you're fighting for the right of people and knowing that this $10 billion is Nigeria's resources, and yet people are not going to benefit from it. Some people are stealing or siphoning the money, and jobs that were meant to be created are not created. And you fight for this, you rejected $2 million, and yet you still get intimidated and harassed by government authorities or government officials, So it's just, but for us, I think for me, by my own inspiration is the fact that, I have colleagues who are committed to following the money, over 1,000 people volunteering. So I just find, in my down moment, I just find that as an inspiration to continue.
Okay, so regardless, there's never been any kind of regrets. Why didn't I collect that money?
I feel fulfilled. So for me, ultimately in life, what is important is peace of mind, good health. Everything else is secondary. Alhamdulillah, I feel happy, I feel fulfilled. I've grown and I'm mentoring hundreds of thousands of young people across the world. So why? I sit on Beyonce's Global Fellowship Board. I sit on a board that advises the Office of the Vice President, and under the Israeli government, the IFA initiative. I sit on various international and national boards of non-profit organizations. So for me, it's about the perception about me and what brand and name I want to preserve and keep for myself, for my children, my grandchildren, and generation yet unborn. I want people to remember me, not for the amount of wealth I have, but for the impact I make and the lives I'm able to touch. And I hope our politicians see politics as a place to serve, because really, when you come to this world and you serve humanity, you'll forever be celebrated. That's why till tomorrow we'll never forget Nelson Mandela. I want to be the Hamzat Lawal from Nigeria that changed the narrative about what people perceive about Nigeria.
Oh, great. All right, now, so let's talk about digital technology. Now, seeing that we're in a digital age, we're a technology-savvy generation, and then we cannot rule out the effect or the impact of social media. Now, either how it can be used or sometimes even abused. So how exactly can we make use of social media so that we don't have to abuse it and then get any kind of backlash in terms of reducing the revenue that comes to the government or to businesses, like the case of Twitter?
So social media is a tool. You can use it positively or negatively. We've always advocated for citizens to engage using this technology tool for positive means, and that's why we run campaigns on Twitter with hashtag. I know that we have a Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy. They have a digital policy led by Ali Insa Pantami, doctor. I think that there's a lot of opportunities there where Nigerian government can actually generate a lot of revenue, but most importantly, create jobs and create values. There was no need to have shut down Twitter. If they saw that people were using Twitter negatively, they should have fined Twitter. In US, in Europe, in Canada, this government fined Twitter. Twitter would pay a huge amount of money from their revenue to pay this fine and ensure they put strict regulations and strict user engagement. So rather than focus on the Nigerian people and say, oh, they're costing government on Twitter, why not engage the platform and create, a means to tackle the issues? So for me, I'm happy, yes, Twitter and the Nigerian government have come to some understanding, but we need to see social media and technology as the game changer. So though the world is talking about big data, artificial intelligence, how are we investing in the future of Nigeria, in the future of data in Nigeria? And I think it's also an opportunity for citizens to work closely with government. So you have the names, the National Identity Management. Because till tomorrow we keep saying, why can't we have a system where, because today when you're giving birth in America, you're given a social security number. The name in Nigeria is our own social security number. Because one, you can't tackle insecurity if you don't even have data of what is our population and who are these people. You know, where do they reside? What kind of businesses do they do? Because you must know your neighbor. You must know members of your community. So for me, technology, social media can help us tackle insecurity, can help us tackle insurgency, and can help unite the country. Because see, today, social media, and that's why I always advocate, we cannot and we must not regulate social media. Because what it means is, if government successfully regulates social media, it means they're the ones that will now decide who has a voice on this platform and who doesn't. So what happens to their critics? What happens to journalists? What happens to activists?
So that would be like a move to gag the...
Yes, that's a move to gag and muscle, you know, yes, press freedom and information freedom. So again, let's see this as a means to an end in the terms of creating jobs, creating values, and rebuilding trust, and creating more platforms in engaging citizens. You know, a lot of people don't have, you know, access to television. And my generation is a mobile upward generation. We're always on the move. You know, we want to get information from Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. So you must also run along with us. You must engage us. And that's why I always preach for intergenerational equity. Yes, you're an older politician in public office, but you don't understand social media as much as my generation. Why not work with my generation work with you? And let's, you know, let's work together, because an old breed without a new breed would breed greed. That's what we have now.
Oh, great. All right then, so that's I've actually picked out that quote that you made. An old greed will work with the new greed.
So an old breed without the new breed would breed greed.
Okay, I've picked that one. All right, now let's talk about the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, Act 2022 rather. So now we see that recently both chambers have agreed to the consensus clause being added. So now it means that it has been thrown open to the political parties. So now it is their own prerogative. So and you have a lot of people complaining, and then with all of this happening, for some people, they believe that it will give thumbs up to the money bags, to their decision to either choose whatever mode of primaries they want to use. And then it will affect other people like the youth coming into politics. Now, you talked about the not too young to run, which I know that you are a co-convener of that law. So how much will this new Electoral Act Amendment Act 2022 affect that law, not too young to run, especially for youth coming into politics, for the women, and then those people that have been complaining, I don't want to call them the disabled people, but how much will it affect this group of people?
This current bill, I'm particularly worried about the consensus candidate. So what do you mean a consensus candidate? So what it means is, for every aspirant, if a state governor or the godfather in the state or the money bags wants a particular aspirant to win, they would use money or they would use power and influence to muzzle the rest and say this is a consensus candidate. We are where we are today because democracy is taking a second seat rather than the first seat. Yes, the current amendment would allow for political parties to determine the affairs of who emerge or how the person emerges as a candidate. I had hoped and wished that this could inform President Muhammadu Buhari's legacy. Direct or indirect primary is fine. Direct, it's even the best, where you have the option A for. Indirect, it means you have to use delegates. So it means that, again, you need a lot of money to pay these delegates and buy their votes. And this is what has now exacerbated into vote buying and vote selling during the secondary elections. Today, these laws or this amendment, if passed, will give so much power to governors, because a lot of our states, the executive governors decide and determine who goes to the state assembly, who becomes local government chairmen and councillors, who goes to the National Assembly. So that's, and I had thought this current National Assembly would help put a stop to this. Because what this also means is all of them would have to go back and, try to make their governors happy if they want to come back to parliament. Because the chairman of because in every state, the governor is the party leader. Yes, you have a chairman of the party, but the governor automatically, because the same way the president is the party leader, that yes, you have a chairman, but the governor as a party leader would muscle the chairman of the party in a state and handpick who is loyal to him and who he trusts to occupy public offices. So I'm a bit worried. Yes, maybe now we didn't get everything right, but as activists, we will shave our sword and fight another day. Hopefully, as post 2023, we can engage the new National Assembly and continue to amend the electoral laws so that these laws would help us deepen our democracy. So the Not Too Young to Run movement was one of those uniting factors in Nigeria. We've never seen a platform where young people from political divide came together and ensure inclusion. Both women, people with disability felt included. And that bill helped to reduce the age for running for public office. And this is one campaign that is really dear to my heart as a co-convener. But that didn't take away money politics. And today, yes, there's a benchmark for what you would spend to run for public office. But you and I know that who audits this account of this candidate or political party? Do we even have this account publicly published? So again, let's not lie to ourselves. I know for a fact that to be a state lawmaker, so to run for state assembly, you need, before 2019, you need about 60 million naira. But now, you're close to 200 million. To be a state legislator, to be a federal lawmaker, you need about 500 million. To be a senator, you need at least 3 billion. To be a governor, you spend above 10 billion. To be the president, you're talking about 30 billion and above. Young people don't have that money now. Just imagine a young person just finished university, serve, with how much now they pay NYSC, and the person has, a conviction to represent his constituents or has a conviction to serve. Where would he or she get 200 million naira from? With vote buying and vote selling and delegate system, indirect primaries, where? So again, our politics is not a politics that shows justice. It doesn't show integration and participation. And that's why today you have social vices. You have a lot of crimes. You have insecurity because the people are losing faith in the system and the process. And now they believe the only way their voice can be heard is to take arms against the state and be violent.
Oh, wow. All right, now, so let's talk about Abuja. Let's talk about the FCT master plan, which started when the capital was moved from Lagos to Abuja, and that's in 1976 by the then military government, that's General Murtala Mohammed and General Olusegun Obasanjo, because they felt that the impetus for Abuja having the capital was because of the overcrowdedness of Lagos, and which all of that actually met a lot of opposition which was led by Obafemi Awolowo and all. So now, looking at what Abuja is, the state that Abuja is right now, and that plan that they had at that time when it was moved from their government, and then it was moved to Shehu Shagari, and then you had Babangida and all, and then you remember, I think it was in 2003 that you had the former FCT minister, Malam Nasser El-Rufai, who came in and he brought about all of the evictions and demolitions and all. But now if you have to look at Abuja, let's take Gwarimpa, for example. You see that almost every day, you just see structures come up arbitrarily. People, it's like everybody, some people just know how to get tickets or approval to build or erect houses or structures haphazardly. So what are your thoughts? Where did we get it wrong, especially in the master plan?
Corruption. So you see, Abuja master plan would have made Abuja a sustainable city where you have proper housing, proper landscaping, green areas, and public infrastructure. But today, because of corruption, and maybe I should take a few infrastructure, public transportation, for instance. Today, we don't have effective public transportation in Abuja. Yes, and interestingly, when you talk to people on the street and you say, which FCT minister do you remember? A lot of people say Erufai. There was a day I was on radio, and people still think Erufai was the minister of the FCT. A lot of people don't even know we've had successive ministers of FCT. Abuja master plan have been tossed in the bin rather. See, I've studied this master plan, and it's a brilliant master plan. It would have allowed Abuja to grow rapidly. Abuja would have been one of the most amazing cities around the world that is sustainable and and would have solid infrastructure. So when you look at transport, for instance, we don't have effective public transport in Abuja. It's just recently that they built the rail, but it's just from central area to the airport. And so it also means that you have to still travel in an unsustainable way and catch the train to the airport. So again, when you look at what is the population growth, and there is no proper planning for even waste management, housing, shelter, urbanization, public utilities. Yeah, travel around Abuja at night. Everywhere is dark, and then you wonder. For me, I think Abuja should have been a democratic city. What do I mean? Today in New York, you have a mayor. In major cities around the world, I've been to New York, I've been to France, Paris, Slovenia, Warsaw. All the cities have mayors. Why can't we elect our mayor in Abuja? Because what happens is the mayor becomes a custodian of the rule of law, ensure that the master plan is properly implemented. If you look at the master plan, you see central area where you have Eagle Square. That's supposed to be a train substation. So Erufai came, yes, he tried to sanitize the system, but how much can one man do? And because there was political will and there was backing by the president, then President Olusegun Obasanjo. So today, yes, people will just get building permit or license. You pass by a green area this week, the next week, you see structure there. They just want to build skyscrapers. So where would our children, what would they play? My family, my parents were one of the first that came to Abuja. They came around the late 80s, And I saw Abuja transition. I attended my primary school, nursery school in Abuja, primary school in Asokoro, Abuja, secondary school in Abuja, University of Abuja. So I literally saw how Abuja grew from bushes, like thick forest, into skyscrapers and no playgrounds again. So again, Abuja master plan, and we can go back to the master plan. Yes, it will cost us a lot of money because we need to take away some structures and build new infrastructure. But this also shows you the state of corruption in our country. So it's not just, it didn't even start in President Buhari's regime. Corruption has always been there from successive governments. And this has also affected our beloved city, Abuja. Because today Abuja cannot pride herself as a mega city or the fastest growing city around the world. Because when you look at what are the indicators, so security, electricity, shelter, public utility, they're not there.
All right, then, even as we begin to round up, on the other news, one question keeps coming to my mind. You are a youth, and then you are a mentor to quite a lot of mentees, and then you are the co-convener of the Not Too Young to Run. So do you have any political ambition, or are you looking forward to clinching that presidential ticket to become the next Nigeria CEO?
I don't deceive myself. If other people are deceiving themselves. I've always been a realist. For me, I would continue to serve humanity. I find it really fulfilling serving people. I'm an activist, naturally born as an activist. And I always say I'm ready. I was born ready for everything. So public office, no one knows. No one knows what the future holds. But for me, I'm currently in my transition phase. And what do I mean? I'll be 35 in March. I've always said I want to retire as a university lecturer. So I need to go back to school, get my master's, get my PhD, and prepare to transition into the academic field. But I would continue to be an activist and a campaigner. I'll continue to serve people and protect the rights of people and be the voice of people that don't have voices. But I also believe that everyone must be a politician at this stage of Nigeria's history. because we cannot afford to leave politics in the hands of only politicians. And what do I simply mean? Go and get your permanent voter's card on election day. Please come out and cast your ballot, because in the eyes of the ballot, we're all equal. President Muhammadu Buhari only has one vote, same as mine. So let's continue to mobilize and organize, but let's get the votes out. I don't know, maybe the future holds politics for me. Maybe the future holds running for public office. You know, all the people there, we believe we can do better. But for me, it's to continue to consolidate, transfer my knowledge and ideas into younger generation, and build a movement that free Nigerians from this chain.
Thank you so much for your time with us, and congratulations to you in advance of your birthday, which is coming up in a few months' time. It's been a wonderful time having this talk with you. Definitely we will be there. Thank you so much for this time with us. It's been a wonderful time having this conversation with you. All right, so we have been chatting with Hamzat Lawal. He is the CEO of Connected Development. He's also the co-convener of Not Young to Run, and he is also the founder of Follow the Money. I'm sure you must have been entertained, you must have been rightly educated and informed. I will definitely see you next time. From the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. God bless Nigeria.